We have been asked to create some cabinet end panels in a simple shaker style to match existing cabinetry. We are using 4/4 stock for the 2-inch wide rails and stiles, and also a wide board to resaw and book match on the bandsaw to create the 1/4 thick flat panels.
So we're going to make an end panel, which is like a door, for some cherry cabinets. We're using Artisan cherry, and because that's what it matches, and so it's basically going to be end panels. Like I said, it also could be doors. This is going to be about 26 inches high and about 24 inches wide, and so we will end up cutting all these to fit, and we're going to use loose tenon joinery. We're actually going to use a Festool domino loose tenon joinery to connect basically the rails and stiles, and we're going to have a central stile rather than just have one super large panel. Okay, so we've run the edges, mating edges on the joiner, so they come together nice and tight, and I've marked them, determined by the outside markings where they originally were, and we opened them up, so there's a perfect book match. So the grain book match, and we've used the cabinet maker's triangle. And the only thing we need to do now before we glue them up is, you can see this edge is just the rough lumber edge. And so if we leave it like that, because it's not remotely flat, then when we apply clamping pressure, it's not going to be completely uniform. And we ended up just trimming the edges so the boards are the same width. Trimming the edges off on the bands, or actually the table saw, and so we're going to glue them up and try to keep the edges flat, since they're not, boards are not flat and they're so thin you really can't make them flat.
We use vertical clamps at the middle joint to keep the panels in the same plane and minimize the amount of material we need to remove to make them the correct thickness.
The panels glued up and run through the planer, so they're now 1/4 of an inch thick, and there's the glue line, which is only visible because of the change in grain. So a nice tight glue joint, and this particular piece of cherry has some really nice chatoyance in it, so these will make nice panels, and they're slightly oversized, so we'll trim them down on the outsides.
We run the rails and stiles through the thickness planer after they have been joined flat.
Milled this stock down. Like I said, we're going to do it in 2 stages because it does tend to move around a little bit, so when you flatten it and then thickness plane it, it doesn't necessarily stay flat. And I'll show you that right here. So you will see that there's a slight gap there, so you can always tell if they're flat by flipping them over. If they stay flat on both orientations, and they're flat. This one's not. So, but we've planed them, joined them, and planed them down to 0.850, and we've made them so they're going to be 3/4 of an inch, so 0.750, and 2 inches wide. And so we've made them 2.1 inches wide, and then we're going to let those sit overnight, find their new stasis, and then we'll remelt.
Now cutting a 1/4 inch dado in the stock with a slot cutting router bit.
Okay, so this is our continuing series on frame and panel manufacture process. So we have made all the grooves in the rails and stiles, and now we've marked the center. So we're going to use 8mm dominoes, and so the groove in all of the rails and stiles is 1/2 inch deep, and the panel will sit a 1/4 inch in, and then there'll be a little spacer, so it'll allow the panel to expand and contract. So here are the little foam spacers that go in the bottom of the groove, and so I've set the center of the domino 3/4 inch in, so it doesn't interfere with the 1/2 inch deep dado. Here's the panel. It's over width right now, and we'll cut it down. It's got the 1 coat of finish on. You want to finish the panels before you put them in, so when it moves, it's finished all the way back.
Here we mill the mortises in the rails and stiles with a domino machine. The dados were run the full length of the stock rather than making stop dados because the ends of the panels are not visible in this application.
Here are all the parts. So here are the left and right stiles and the center stile. They all have a 1/2 inch deep groove, which we put in with, in this case, a router bit. It also can be done with a shaper, obviously. And there's a domino mortise in each corner for the loose tenon, and we've sized the panels, pre-finished them and sized the panels for the expansion and contraction. So the 1/2 inch deep groove or dado, and the panel will extend a 1/2 inch or a 1/4 inch in to each side. So it's basically the width of the opening plus 1/2 inch, and there's a 1/4 inch in each dado, which we have. There's a little spacer in there. So we'll do a dry fit. So I find that it's easiest to start with the center. And we'll lock that down. And we'll glue it up. Want to make sure we don't get too much squeeze out around here, so it doesn't freeze the panel in place in the bottom of the dado.
Here we complete the dry fit by clamping everything up tight. Now that the panel is glued up, here it is with 1 coat of finish. Scuff sanded with 320 grit paper. Then we apply a 2nd coat of urethane.
So this is in the midst of another cabinet project we're doing, and I don't know if I mentioned, but there were a couple of panels for the cherry frame and panel, and this one is 8 feet long and 24 inches wide, and covers the side of a Sub-Zero refrigerator panel in a kitchen. So this one was a little more effort than that guy, but both turned out nice.
We hope you have enjoyed watching the manufacturing of frame and panels for our newest cabinetry project. We always ensure that every step of the process is done paying close attention to detail. Please visit our website, thenobleartisan.com, and don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button. The Noble Artisan, handcrafted woodwork, heirloom quality.